Hi, this is Bob from the podcast Rocks, and today I'm here with Ben to talk to you about Fate's Warning, A Pleasant Shade of Gray. This album is a classic album in the progressive field. It was released in 1997. This album was actually written 3 years prior by Jim. And the track is originally one track, but the record company told the band to divide it into 12 tracks. So we're going to dissect this album 2 tracks at a time. To start out, we start out with the intro. And the intro of this album is only a minute and a half long, but it introduces the main melody of the album and the repeating theme of the album. We learn later with this, so where do we begin and what else can we say? When the lines are all drawn, what shall we do today? This will become more important later on in this, but it sets the tone for the album. And then in track 2, we enter into the album. And we realize, in my opinion, that we're talking to someone who's actually in a coma, that's drifting in and out of consciousness, and is unable to vocalize what his feelings or what he's going through to anyone. And we realize this in this song. We find out that as time passes, he's crossing over between dreams and consciousness, and he's finding it hard to distinguish between the two because he's unable to see the reality that would be before him if he was conscious. Sonically, track 2 is one of the best tracks on this album because it's pioneer in many ways. One, the distorted vocals in a progressive song was not heard of at this time. And the way it's presented by Adler is absolutely amazing. And Robin and Zonder on this track is absolutely phenomenal on the skins, providing rhythm patterns that are very technical and are direct and to the point that emphasize the tune. And Matthias is bringing out a guitar sound that is only giving you what is necessary. He's not giving you that Dream Theater vibe. He's not giving you 100 notes a minute. This guy is giving you what you need to really convey the emotion of this track. And I feel that this is one of the most emotional tracks on the album. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, Bob, I didn't know what to expect when you told me Fate's Warning. I'd never listened to him before. I didn't know anything about him whatsoever. So I went into it completely unbiased and blind. And it caught me off guard. The first track, especially, as soon as I heard it, it felt like the intro music to this is a good thing because I'm pretty nostalgic. It felt like a cheesy early 90s horror movie that I would have seen on a Sunday morning on the USA channel. They played Puppet Master and all this kind of crazy stuff. So that's kind of what I felt off the top. But once track 2 hit and you kind of started seeing where they were going, I got some weird contrasting tones through it that I don't know if it really set the stage because I didn't know what was coming. Everybody is well rounded in this after going back and reading about them, and so even like right now, I still don't know what to think about it. It's such a complex album and a complex piece that I'm having. That's why I wanted you to kind of take the reins on this because I do have trouble kind of breaking it down. It's complex even for me, and I'd like to think that I've got quite a history of listening to all kinds of different stuff.
See, like with this one, with this album, I have 2 different takes on it. But my first one is that Gray is that place between heaven and hell, like a purgatory, where you're stuck there in
Purgatory. Yep.
your own thoughts. You're not in heaven, the white. You're not in hell, the black. You're in the gray, and you're stuck in this place. It's kind of like being in that coma. The reason I like to think it's more of a coma state is the fact that the idea of gray also is your mind is gray matter. And so, in looking upon that, I see this as a guy that maybe had some sort of accident. He's in this coma. He's trying to resolve all these things. And that leads into track 3, where they introduce the clouds. The clouds that are constantly mentioned in this album, I believe, are a symbolism of all the things that we carry, our baggage with us. And these clouds follow us through life. All the mistakes that we made, all the things that we wish we could have redid are the gray clouds that follow us everywhere we go. And they haunt our mind when we do something and we experience something in life. It reminds us of a cloud from the past that comes back and helps steer us in the right direction, because we don't want to go back to what we did before. And I think that track 3 really starts to bring that into the forefront lyrically. And then track 4, I believe it's the conscious realization that the clouds are very persistent within this guy. And he, being in this coma state, the only sounds he hears is his own heartbeat and the rhythm pattern within him while he's, in a conscious state. And he's forced to relive all these memories that, because he doesn't know if he's coming back. He doesn't know what's going to happen. And so he's trying to figure out, he's basically reliving his lives, trying to find a solution to his past, the past that he doesn't, that he regrets and that he wants to resolve, and the ways to resolve them. And I think track 4 really points that out. That being a shorter track as well, sonically, 3 and 4 are tied in together through the same chord structures, and that just slowed down in 4 in order to give a more passive feel, so that you have that sense of that feeling of that heartbeat inside.
Yeah, I agree with you. I honestly, even listening to it, I didn't, until you just brought it up. I didn't really realize that it was about someone that was, basically comatose. I thought it was just, a state of unconscious, um, or even like introspection, whatever, or maybe even kind of like a purgatory type thing. Um,
Sure.
just, you know, being someone who really loves instrumentals, I don't listen to lyrics as much as I should, or excuse me, I don't read lyrics either. And I prefer, like, for instance, when I write, I try to let the music convey, and that's what I was really trying to listen to in the music. And it's just so complex. And I mean, your takeaway from it obviously is going to be a lot different than mine. Um, you know, I really enjoyed the bass. The bass work, man, on this album is man, it's the bass and drums to me stand out. And I'm a guitar guy. I really love guitar. I love everything about it. I love chugging. I love, dialing in tones and stuff. But the bass and drums in this really shined, man. And I I also like how they were able to kind of connect um, thoughts from song to song, and one leads into the other, um, like you're saying. And you've given me new perspective on the stuff. Now I want to go back and listen to it again, and with what you were just saying about it. Um, oh, one of the things so far that I've noticed in this album, it's quintessential 90s. It's got all the tones of the 90s, all the and as the album moves on, um, I hear a lot of very, very 90s era, keyboard synth and everything. And that's really what I was listening to, and it was, you know, kind of the structures and what they were doing and what they were using. Um, and so, you know, to be perfectly honest, now I'll have to go back and listen to it in kind of a different vein.
And I think that's great that you hear it in that way, because I'm more on the other sense of fence. And I think that's why we make such a perfect team, is that I'm a lyric guy and I'm always trying to find, you know, the source and the feel of what an artist is trying to convey lyrically. Because sometimes, you know, like this song is very open. As I said, I could be totally wrong. Um, Jim could be sitting at home going, "What the fuck is this guy talking about?" But I think that, you know, in looking at the lyrics in retrospect, it either has to be something of a state of purgatory or a state of consciousness, because the theme is the main lyrical concepts and the main um, melodies are repeated. As we repeat,
Oh yeah.
we all have recurring dreams. We all have recurring events that, you know, come to us, and, you know, our memories never go away. They will, even the bad ones will come back and haunt you. So, in
Mm.
either way, um, this story is conveying a message that, you know, we all have these gray clouds that follow us, and we all have these things that we regret. And we can choose, we can fix them, or we can just add to the clouds. And at the end of the day, you know, most of us want to discard the clouds. And I think that's
Yeah.
main focus of the story. And then the reason I feel this is perfect time to talk about this, because track five is definitely a dream. There's no doubt about it. Um, you know, and basically, the line that seals that is let nothing bleed into nothing and nothing at all. And
That's what I wrote down on mine, man. That's exactly what I you know, in my notes. That's exactly what I've got. That was such a kind of a profound, just like, whoa, wow.
yeah, and it's basically saying that, you know, it's a realization that this is a dream, and that these visions, you know, and, you know, it talks about murder and music and crucified in Rome. Those are crucified in Rome's definitely a religious um you know, implication. And basically it's, he feels maybe somehow in his dream state that the suffering that he's going through with these clouds and stuff that's following him is almost Christ-like in
Yeah.
in retrospect. You know, that he is basically being crucified for his past sins, and he's forced to carry them forever. And there's no way to resolve them. So it gives that religious tone, because he actually has that feeling inside that, you know, I'm carrying this cross, and my cross are these clouds that are following me, and I can't get rid of them, especially in the state that I am. And then you go into track 6, and that's a realization that the clouds cannot go away and they're unresolved, you know, because he, through time, he can't, in the state he's in, he can't fix these problems. So he's stuck in this spot, and he doesn't know, he's very confused about how to, he's going to rectify all these situations when he can't deal with the people, the places, the situations that he was involved in. And so I think that's basically the story that's to that point, at the halfway point, is now we have this guy who's in this state that realizes that he can fix these clouds, but he's got to come back to consciousness to do so.
That was a yeah, that one, track 6. Is that where you are, track 6?
Mm-hmm.
Um Yeah, that was the one that referenced the "Where Do We Begin." Obviously, it's referenced a couple times, whatever, but I believe that was the first time that it was re-referenced,
Yes.
um, coming back into it. Yeah, it's dude, there's a vocal harmony in that track that he does, and personally, I don't think he does it enough to this album, but there's a vocal harmony that he does that just like, wow, man, it's like, I don't know how to describe it, but it's just really good, you know. Yeah, good solos. It, musically up to here, still because this is such a complex album. I almost feel like a dumbass sitting here trying to describe it. Yeah, you're talking about some profound shit, man, and I, I um I still don't know what to think of this album. I remember the first time I listened to it, which was a mistake. I ended up having a few tequilas, man, and laying down and putting my earphones in. Ended up buying the album after you told me about it, and I laid down and started listening to it. About halfway through, man, I was like, "Am I high right now? What is going on?" It's just kind of it's like a fever dream. That's what I take away from it.
Yeah. And
It's just it's very almost psychedelic, you know. If you know, you don't need drugs to trip balls. Just listen to this album, and
sure.
it's and now that you've got you know, a religious take on it. Wow, I didn't really think about that, and it's just profound. You know, the whole comatose thing. Didn't think about that.
And upon listening to it too, as we go into track 7, um, we see this person that's gone through all this. Now he becomes confused even more because he doesn't understand that why he's forced to struggle in this situation. And and then he gets confused more about when he is dreaming and when he is feeling consciousness, and they're becoming one and the same. And this is when we go into the instrumental of track 8, which is just phenomenal.
It's great.
The musicianship on this is great. The emotion and everything is really amped up in track 8, and I think it's one of the strongest tracks on the album.
Yeah, the dude, the drumming on this album, it's not your blast beat heaven. It's not four on the floor. It's all over the place. I was trying to figure out the time signatures that he was doing, and everybody's doing something different. Um, I love the piano, the arpeggiated piano. I don't know if someone's actually playing that. I'm assuming they are, unless they've got it on an arpeggiator or something like that. Um, but I really like that with polyrhythm heaven, bro. Like there's so much going on. I was like, it is not. I was reading on excuse me Wikipedia, and it was panned. You know, the album was panned, and they're saying that it's not for the faint of heart.
Right.
You have to be in a mood for it. You have to kind of put your thinking cap on while listening to it. It's not something that's just going to satiate the casual listener. It
Right.
didn't with my expectations. It didn't satiate me at all. I've listened. This is probably a little bit ago. I just finished listening to it. That was probably the 24th or 25th time I've listened to it because it's that complex. It's unreal. And maybe not to some people, but to me, man, I
I
don't
hear
typically listen.
I hear different nuances every time I hear it.
Yeah, I can
Um,
imagine.
and going into track 8, 9, he's consciously trying to resolve the relationship they was in, and apparently he was in a relationship where he was in love, and he was responsible for the destruction of the relationship. The song doesn't really entail why, but we do know that he was basically at fault for the end of the relationship. And he keeps mentioning that he keeps writing these letters in his head because he is. he's lying there in a hospital bed. When he's lying in bed, it's actually in reference to him lying in a hospital bed in his coma, and he's writing these letters in his head because he has so much he wants to say to the woman he loves, and he wants to make things right, and he can't, and he's still charged with writing these letters over and over, trying to write the perfect letter to settle a relationship that he wishes he had back.
Dude, 9 was good.
Mm-hmm.
9, I don't know if it's my favorite on the track. If I were just going to take it for face value and listen to it one time, I would absolutely say 9 was my favorite. It screamed. So I don't know. Maybe you know the answer to this. I was looking for it earlier. I couldn't find anything. It seems like it was written a decade earlier. It seems like it was pulled directly out of the 80s, at least the inspiration for it. It's almost like was I listening to Slaughter or something? That's kind of, just music wise. That's exactly kind of what I gleaned from it. Whatever. It's a good track. Yeah, it's a really good ballad. Really good ballad, man.
Yeah, and the
I love the
guitar is
tambourine in it. Yeah,
yes.
no, everything's good in it. I was listening to it earlier with my headphones, and I was, jamming outside, and you talking about nuances. I said, tambourine, get the fuck out of here. Yeah, it was unreal, man. That's bold, to put a freaking tambourine in metal, and it was really bold. And I really enjoyed track 9 a lot. The solo was great. Still get 80s out of it, when I hear it, which is good because, the album kind of waxes and wanes on nostalgia for me. I hear stuff from 30 something years ago when, I was a kid or early teen, whatever. And then again from the 80s, I could hear that song being played, on the radio at the swimming pool, man, in the late 80s, dude. When hair metal was good and all these guys were throwing ballads out to pick up chicks and all that stuff. Yeah, it's a good track. It's a really, really good track.
and that's the thing. Fates Warning has been doing this since the 80s, and providing a progressive style. And I also want to say at this point, this was the first album with one guitarist for Fates Warning. They've always had
Wow.
two, and
Shit.
Jim took over all of it at that point for the band. And
Wow.
I think with that transition and everything else, this album was written around the time Monuments came out, and he decided to shelf it. He didn't think that it's the right time for Fates to put an album like that out until they were further established. Especially with Adler on coming back on vocals, taking over for Arch. He wanted to establish that lineup before he released this album because he thought it'd be too much too quick. And I do think he picked the perfect time to release it because they just released Chasing Time to follow up to their biggest album, Parallels. And it was time to put it out there and see who saluted it. And I commend him for taking the chance to make the sonic statement that progressive doesn't have to be a million notes a minute. Progressive is not bounded by that terminology. This album is very progressive, and it doesn't astound you with how many notes are being played, but it does astound you with the complexity of what's going on. And I think there's a lot to be learned from that. I think they were basically at that time making a statement to bands like Dream Theater and stuff that was out at the time that were, that basically, I don't want to say followed their lead, but definitely had influence of Fates, especially early Fates, and took it a step farther. And he said, "Whoa, we're not bound by this. We can pull back, and we can do something like this, and still make a great progressive album." And I think he accomplished just that.
It is definitely progressive. Progressive music is not really my forte. unless one would be so inclined as to include Opeth. That's my favorite band. They're progressive.
Absolutely. Yeah,
I've listened to a lot of. Go ahead.
yeah, Opeth is probably, um, as progressive as their genre goes. And yeah, to say that that's not a progressive band would be an absolute insult because
Yeah, I think so too. I just don't. I know they don't like to be kind of pigeonholed into a genre, even though they are progressive, whatever. I don't know what they are, but that's one of the, not a turnoff, whatever. But that was one of the things that I was kind of bracing for, was Petrucci style, Petrucci, however you say it. Just a barrage of notes coming at you. Just crazy. As many as you can throw in, and there wasn't as many as I anticipated, and that was really good. That was really good. That made it more palatable for me.
sure. And, and Fates has that material, where,
Sure.
they come at you at breakneck speed and gives you everything. And, they've already had proven that they can do that. And I think this was a statement that, we're not gonna be put in this one category because we're more than that. And I think you look at the talent in this band, and you know, Adler could sing the phone book and it sound great. I think that the band could do a style, a genre that they would ever want to endeavor. And for those that are listening, listen to A to Z, listen to Adler and Zonder back together again, doing a killer album. Yeah, album is killer from top to bottom.
I'm gonna check it out too, because I haven't listened to it. This is the only taste that I've gotten, and it's so I've overused the word complex, but it's so complex. I'm almost kind of afraid to dabble into anything else, but I'm gonna.
Then we go into track 10, and track 10 is the most diverse track on the album. This is where this person is in a state of confusion, and there's visions coming to him from all aspects of his life, from his childhood until now. And it's definitely displayed in the music, and it's very chaotic. And there's 100 things going on at once in this track, and to pick them all out would take forever. But you can definitely say that this is the track that is leading to close out this album, and I think it's a great way to do it.
Are you talking about 10 or 11?
Track 10, the instrumental.
Okay, so you are talking about the instrumental. Yeah, it was, holy shit, there was a lot going on. Yeah, but it's there it goes. It brings back the theme again.
Sure.
Where do we begin? The music, yeah, it becomes cyclical. Yeah, I enjoyed it.
And then track 11, he's still realizing the relationship that he was not present with his love when they needed him the most. And, whether it been a commitment to something else or whatever, or a choice not to be there, it's definitely displayed in this track. And you can really feel the emotion and the heartbreak of that moment and that realization to him.
Was this did these guys have any inspiration from Chuck Schuldiner or Slayer or anything? Because this album, or excuse me, this song screamed like it was a very progressive Slayer or Death. That was the notes I got off that. Just the taste. And man, it was just like it. I thought I was listening to Slayer the first time I heard it. I was like, wow, man, or Death, whatever. But you've definitely looked into it a hell of a lot deeper than I have, my friend. I was listening to the music and dissecting all that stuff, and I'm kind of like, I'm at a loss for words. You've gone in a profound route where I just didn't venture. Now I'm gonna have to say I'm not ashamed to admit, I didn't dive as deep into it as I guess should have.
I mean, if you go back to the Arch days of Fates Warning, and you go back to like Awaken the Guardian and No Exit and stuff like that, you definitely get that kind of influence. Later on, it became, I really think Fates really came into their own and developed their own unique sound. I would go as far as to say that Queensryche was very influenced by Fates,
I can
and
see that. I can see that.
I think you definitely hear sonically the sounds. I think if someone would ask DeGarmo if he listened to Fates, he'd say, "Fuck yeah, I did." Because I
Yeah.
think his guitar style is very much like Matthias's style.
I was wondering that too, if there was any kind of cross influence, because I did pick up on this album specifically. I've been listening to a lot of Queensryche. Empire is constantly going in my truck, man. When I'm on the way to work, bro, I listen to Empire a couple times a month, at least. And that's probably my favorite. Whatever. I don't know the entire catalog, but I definitely heard Queensryche in this album, especially this last go around. I was really trying to pick it apart, and I was like, "Wow, that sounds like this song or whatever." Interesting.
And and then we come to the final track 12, and this puts it all together because this person has finally come to terms with all the clouds that has followed him, and to our realization, he wakes up to find out it's the same storm that we heard in the beginning, and that all of this was not a state of coma, that this was all really a complex dream. And we find it out in this track. We find out that everything has come full circle, and he is awakened to the same storm. And then at the very end, you hear the alarm go off. And this really puts it all together and makes you realize at this point that this was all a complex dream.
That goddamn alarm.
Mm-hmm.
It finalizes the thought, but going to sleep to this and then hearing that, it, it's a good track. It's a very good, what I would call, almost like ending credits or, not even a climax, whatever, but it's a really good into the story. And there was let me pull it up on my phone. The close our eyes a while as morning shadows play and listen to the rain, wash the long night away, face to face we'll awake to see another day, and with hope in our hearts embrace this shade of gray, this pleasant shade of gray. That was, it sucked I had to go through the entire album to get to that sentiment, but that was awesome. I mean,
Yes.
I'm gonna have that printed up and framed on my wall, man. That was some profound,
Uh-oh.
And it was a good ending. It was a happy ending. You didn't have to worry about something somber happening or anything. Because we all know dreams are scary as shit, and it's always good to wake up on a good note, and
Sure.
especially realize that you're not comatose or what have you. And yeah, that was a groovy track, man. I love the shit out of it. I love the shit out of the album. Like I said, it's complex and it's damn sure not for everybody. I try to get my wife to listen to it. She's like, I can't do it. So
Yeah. And
yeah,
I think the symbolism of the clouds was amazing on the album. I think that's a great way of really displaying the things we carry with us in life. And I think this, in retrospect, this album is could be a book. I mean, I would like to see Jim elaborate on this and write further on it and make a book out of this. because I think that, some of his thoughts and his insights are very, very good.
Yeah, I want a sequel. After listening to it and really just trying to grasp um the journey. Yeah, I want a sequel, man. It was it was a great concept. It's a strange concept, but it's a really good concept. I wrote down that it was bravely and boldly executed. It's when you're presenting your stuff, when you're presenting your music and what's in your head, especially for commercial purposes, I would imagine that you want someone to actually take hold of it. And I can't tell if they knew exactly what they were doing or if they were just kind of shooting in the dark in hopes that somebody would bite on this because I've never heard of this album before you told me about it. Um, Never heard of it seems like I heard what was it track 9 before, but like I said, I could have gotten my wires crossed with Slaughter or something like that. Um, and honestly, Bob, I still don't know what to think about this album. It's one of those that it's got good replay value um, if you're in the mood for it. And you had said that I don't know how long you've listened to this. If you've listened to it since it came out in '97, and you're picking out
Absolutely.
a
Yeah.
different nuance every time. And so I'm 24 plays into it. A month and a half whenever we decided on this album. Um, it feels like a fever dream to me. I mean, still, every time I listen to it, it gives me kind of almost an uneasy feeling. If I'm especially in a completely sober state of mind, if I've been drinking a little bit, whatever, it's a little bit easier to take in. But it's overall, it's probably one of the most complex pieces of music I've ever heard in my life, like hands down, in a good way. But the concept alone is just it's kind of hard to stomach, you know, if you can
And I
imagine
invite
being in that person's shoes.
and I invite everyone to listen to Still Life, which is the tour that was accompanied with it, was released in a double live album called Still Life. And to hear these tracks live even provides even a stronger nuance to the song.
Hmm.
I seen this tour, and I can honestly say that when I went to see this tour, they opened up for Sabotage, and this set that you will hear on this album was so good that I left before Sabotage came on because I knew I would not hear a better set than what I had just heard.
Yeah, that's how you do it. You serve it up like that. That's great, man. That's good that it was, when did you see him? What year?
It was that tour. I believe it was late '97. I believe it was in November.
Yeah, it's complex music, especially for back then too, when it was, I guess, progressive. I mean, progressive's been around obviously, but you know, um, it's gotten even more um, popular. And
Uh-oh.
dude, I can't even remember the first time I heard a Dream Theater, and the first time I listened to him, it was just there. Oh my god, it was just a sonic assault. There's so much going on, and here I am in my 40s, bro, and I've heard a lot of stuff, and this is a brand new album to me, and it was very challenging in a good way. It was very, very challenging.
And I invite you to listen to Parallels, as I sent you, and to listen
Yeah,
to
for sure. Yep.
live album, and to get more of a feel of the band, and to realize that this is definitely not the standard Fates Warning album. This was a bold move for them.
That's what
This
I
was
thought.
something that
Yeah, I've listened. I've gone back and listened to some of their older stuff, just kind of skipping through them on YouTube or whatever, and none of it sounds anything like this. And so I'm like, wait, did I get the right album? What the hell am I? So it's and that's good. I mean, that it's like I said, it seems like a very bold and brave move on somebody's part that when you have expectations about what they're going to do. It's like I hate to keep bringing up Opeth, but I love the guys. It's like Opeth writing all this heavy shit and then they drop Damnation, and it's just there's no growls on it. And I remember when that album came out, everybody was just like, what the hell is going on? And then they did it again with Heritage after Watershed, and everybody was just so confused, and they're like, what the hell happened? But I think, you know, if you're going to be progressive, you have to take risks and make some crazy bold decisions, man. And so I'll let you say it first if you want, but this is a good album. I'm going to give it a good solid 8 out of 10. And the only reason it's not a 9 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10 is because I personally just the vocals didn't do it for me. They didn't resonate with me, but everything else is great.
I personally will give this a 9 out of 10, and the reason for that is I think that this album made quite a few statements that, to me, definitely resonated. One, that it was a statement to the bands at that time that, hey, you know, we did your, 100 notes a minute, and we're going to take that and we're going to strip it down to half, and we're going to make an album just as good as anything you put out. And I think as far as, like I said, track 2, I invite anyone to find that distorted vocal style on album before 97.
Yeah,
and
that
now
was,
it's
that was
very
very unique.
now that style is very prominent in progressive music, but I am willing to bet that that was first.
Interesting. Yeah. Good call, brother. Thanks for the recommendation, man.
Oh, you're very welcome, and thank you for coming along for the ride. And I look forward to your pick next month.
Oof. What are we gonna do, man? What do you want to do?
It's all you, man. It's all you. It's your
Oh, well, I don't know if we can outdo
I
this one,
know
homie.
pick after you. Ready. You want to know what it is? I sent you the album.
I'll come up with something good. I hope.
I
Yeah,
know
this has
you.
been fun. This has been fun, man. I've learned a lot today, and that's kind of what I was hoping to get from it. Since you know more about these guys than I do, and I feel like a kindergartner, man. You know, learning all this stuff.
Well, like I say, the song. The great thing about the track is that it is open to interpretation. I'm not saying that my interpretation is correct. I'm saying it's the most logical because of the symbolization of gray, and it can only be narrowed down to a couple items. And I do go with the state of consciousness because the fact that gray is the matter of the brain, and the fact that the dude awakens from a dream in the end, and it all points that way. If you look at the lyrics, and even with your favorite track, still writing letters in my head, he's writing them in his head because he can't write them on paper.
Yeah, it's a weird album. I mean, I you can still like it and call it weird. I mean, a lot of the shit I like is weird. It's a weird album, and but I'm gonna encourage people to check it out for sure, because maybe they can get something from it. And wow, I mean, you've just honestly kind of blown my mind with breaking it down like you have, man.
Well, hey, I think we can definitely say that with an 8 and 9 rating, that this is one that people will go to again and again. And I can honestly say that each time you listen to it, you will hear new nuances, because I still hear them today.
Yeah.
You've been listening to Rocked Podcast video, album of the month. Tune in next month when you can hear our next review. And remember, come see us for a fix.